has to consider the question, what can I do to improve the lives and the world for people that I care about the most? And I feel like a lot of this impacts our common society and our government because the people have the right to vote through democratic process in order to determine what laws are implemented and what changes are made in society. So the purpose behind my original work was to see the opinions of the people who were considering what to do in order to advance ourselves as a society in terms of medicine. And so I talked to a lot of different general internists and transplant hepatologists in order to determine what questions did people think about the most in terms of medicine and in terms of the healthcare sector. And so I came up with these three questions. What should we pursue in terms of medical advancements? What types of medical technology are people willing to invest in? And what are people most concerned about in the healthcare industry? The public has an immense impact on the way that we form our medical advancements and the way that we develop our industry and the healthcare sector. So I found that I would do a survey on the demographics, the general opinion, and the specific opinion of people in the Texas community. And so I decided to start off with demographics. So my first question was, what is your gender? And so gender is heavily impactful and super important because it has to do with the threat that people consider certain diseases to be. For example, males are more susceptible to cardiovascular disease. They acquire it a lot more easily, and they also have a lot more genetic problems due to sex-linked traits. My second question was, what is your age? I found that age would be an important factor because it would kind of determine the age group that people would kind of decide to target. Because if you're in a certain age group, you're going to think more about either your peers or the people that are under you. My third question was, are you a parent? When you are a parent, you have another factor to include in your study because if you have a child, you're more likely to care about developments in the healthcare sector that affect them. Things like medical advancements and the types of doctors that your children see are really important to parents. And because of that level of care that they have, it can impact their opinion on them more than their age group or their gender. Right. So I decided to split the rest of this into general and specific opinions. And so my first general opinion question was to kind of see what people thought about certain diseases, and I included diseases from all sorts of different body systems. I had coronary artery disease to be part of the cardiovascular system, diabetes to be part of the endocrine system, and things like HIV and malaria to be part of the immune system. So naturally, as I mentioned before, different genders and different age types are going to look at these diseases differently. Obviously, a child is not going to think about diabetes as much as a grandfather would. Or they won't think about coronary artery disease as much because they're likely not at risk of that at such an early age. My next question was, what age group should medical developments be geared towards? And like I mentioned before, I feel that age can be a huge factor in this because people that are a certain age are going to think about, well, what's going to help me the most? I want medicine and technological advancements for myself, obviously, even if they don't think about it in such a cynical way, and they're likely to be more biased towards that option. Another question was, how much potential do you think that medical devices will have in the future of medicine? This also correlates to age because people that are at a very high age are likely to think about quick, short-term solutions to their problems. So things like medicine that are easy to develop in perspective or in relation to medical technologies that are purely experimental at this time will probably have more of a favor when you're considering the age factor. So another question that I had was, would you be willing to provide DNA samples in order to get personalized medicine and in order to contribute to research? And this just had to do with gauging how much the people in my study were willing to actually, think about what benefits the community the most, how much they'd be willing to like contribute, because there's things to consider like time and the desire somebody has in order to develop the healthcare industry. Then I moved on to specific opinion questions, where I talked about whether or not we should focus on research and development. Research and development has to do primarily with medical technology, the more experimental stuff, whereas new chemical treatments have to do more with medicine and drugs and common short-term solutions that most pharmaceutical companies make. And I also asked them, what do you believe will benefit society the most? And I talked about the three first ones, which had to do with medical technology, some more experimental stuff like nanotechnology, which can do organ repairs and fix problems at a really small level. 3D printing body parts, which kind of helps people that have amputations and organ problems repair their parts. And analysis of DNA and genome sequencing, because stem cells are becoming more common in our research, because we find that they have a very widespread application and can help a lot of different people with a lot of the problems that we consider really hard to treat at this point. And I also added VR training and PSAs as another option besides medical technology, because I felt that if people didn't believe that medical technology would have much use, they would probably lean towards things that would help surgeons become more qualified at performing their operations, or helping people raise awareness of what they thought was proper to talk about and discuss in order to move towards advancement. So I also asked, should doctors try to learn more about the multiple fields of medicine, or should they focus mostly on a specific topic? This is a generalization versus a subspecialization kind of question, because I found that people that want medicine and medical advancements for their children will probably look towards people that knew a lot about the basics and kind of developed on things that we already knew, instead of looking towards the more experimental things. So my hypothesis, like I mentioned before, was that gender would affect primarily the ranking question, because people's perception of disease can depend really heavily on their gender, and which medical advancement society would think would help them most. Additionally, I talked about the age and what age groups the medical advancement should be geared towards, what potential the medical devices will have, and whether or not we should focus on research and development or treatment of common diseases through just general drug use. And I also had a correlation between parenthood, and I kind of thought that they would be willing to donate DNA or contribute because it would lead to a better future for their children. But I also thought that they would lead to a job movement towards generalizations in internal medicine, because naturally parents want someone that's qualified in a lot of different fields to kind of help their child become as healthy as possible. So my actual results worked pretty well with gender. I found that the correlation was pretty accurate. As you can see, the coronary artery disease is rated really high for males, and in addition to diabetes. And for females, coronary artery disease is also very high, along with lung disease and HIV. Also, a lot of people supported nanotechnology and DNA sequencing. So it appears that both genders really liked medical advancements and experimental medical technology, but they were also very well split between nanotechnology and DNA sequencing, because those things have such a huge impact and can help people with diseases that are really hard to treat. And for my age, it was kind of mixed in terms of correlation. I found that for the most part, people did target their age group or the ones that were underneath them, but at the same time, I found that a lot of them actually favored research and development instead of just thinking short term and thinking about what they could do in order to benefit themselves. And I also talked about how whether or not they thought that medical devices would have a lot of potential and a lot of use. So this also had kind of an opposite correlation. I thought they would think, for the most part, that it would have little or no use because they were thinking short term, and they were thinking more, how can like medicine help me right now? I don't think medical advancements can like advance that much in terms of experimental technology at this point. But apparently a lot of people thought that it would have a lot of long-lasting impact, and they didn't think as short-term that I believe they would. And last of all, Parenthood was primarily in support of donating DNA samples and contributing to research and developments like I thought they would. And they also supported like getting doctors that were associated with general topics, the ones that knew a lot about different subspecialties and knew a lot of different topics and things that would help their child become healthy as possible. And now I would like to talk about the future of internal medicine and where we should head on from this. I feel like a lot of us agree, despite age, despite gender, and despite parenthood status, that medical advancements and medical technologies are something that are really important to address and really important to concern ourselves with in the future. And I find that a lot of people are going into research sectors and looking to subspecialize and develop their opinions and research over different topics throughout medicine and overall just benefit society as a whole. Additionally, I feel like there will be a definite positive trend towards political activism in terms of what people are willing to do in order to contribute to research, even though that has kind of a weird vibe to it in our day and age. But I feel like people are getting over that and are trying to do the best they can to benefit our children and our future generations. And I would like to end by tying back to this quote: "No one is useless in the world who lightens the burdens of another." And I feel like Dickens had a really important point here, because he thought about that throughout all generations, people are going to be concerned about what society has to offer at its next stage, what the next generation of people are going to show and kind of work towards as a whole. And this kind of ties back to how if one person tries to benefit another person and overall just help a lot of different people in any way that they can, they're going to lighten the entire burden of society and ultimately help to move towards progress. Thank you very much for hearing me out and listening to my long speech. I hope that this has impacted you in some way and shown you that there's a lot of advancements and more room for technology and progression that we have in our healthcare industry, and that it's something that we should definitely move towards. Thank you.